Life often surprises us in the quietest of moments. What may begin as an ordinary night can turn into a memory that stays with us forever. This is the story of how one late-night incident in our family changed the way I looked at love, trust, and responsibility. It all began in Austin, Texas, where my family and I had recently moved into a new home. I, Karen Mitchell, was still settling into this chapter of my life. My husband, Michael, had 2 children from his first marriage, and although it had been a couple of years since we all became a family, I still considered myself learning and growing in my role as a mother figure to his kids. His younger son, Ethan, was 12 years old, an age full of curiosity, energy, and sometimes confusion. The house was beautiful, filled with space for everyone, and I was grateful to have found a place where we could truly feel like a family. But moving also meant adjustments. New schools, new neighbors, and a new routine. Ethan was struggling the most with the change. He had left behind his old school, his best friends, and even his soccer team. At night, I could sometimes hear him turning restlessly in his room, unable to sleep. One night, after a long day of unpacking boxes and arranging the house, I went to bed early. My husband was away on a short business trip, so the house felt quieter than usual. The kids were supposed to be asleep, though I knew Ethan had a habit of sneaking out of bed to read comic books under his blanket with a flashlight. At around 2 in the morning, I woke up to the sound of my door creaking open. At first, my heart raced. Living in a new neighborhood, my mind jumped to fears of an intruder. But as the dim light from the hallway spread across my room, I saw a familiar silhouette. It was Ethan, standing at the doorway, looking nervous and unsure if he should step inside. I sat up gently and whispered, "Ethan? What's wrong, honey?" His eyes looked heavy with sleep but also with worry. He stepped into the room, holding his favorite stuffed toy in his hand, something he usually kept hidden away since he didn't want to look too old for it. I couldn't sleep," he mumbled. "I had a nightmare." I patted the side of the bed, and he slowly walked over, clutching the toy tighter. "Do you want to tell me about it?" I asked softly. Ethan shook his head. His lips trembled as though he didn't want to cry but couldn't help it. I could tell he was fighting emotions that he didn't know how to express. So instead of pushing him, I let the silence be, wrapping the blanket around him as he sat on the edge of my bed. "It was about Dad," he whispered finally. "I dreamed he didn't come back from his trip." My heart sank. Ethan had already experienced the pain of losing stability, once when his parents divorced. To him, the idea of losing his father too must have been terrifying. I placed my arm gently around his shoulders and said, "Sweetheart, your dad is just fine. He loves you so much, and he always comes back. Sometimes our minds trick us into being scared, but you're safe here." Ethan nodded but didn't move. He seemed afraid of going back to his own room, so I asked, "Do you want to stay here until you fall asleep?" His eyes brightened a little and he whispered, "Can I?" That night, as he lay under the blanket next to me, holding his stuffed toy, I realized something important. This wasn't about nightmares. It was about needing comfort, stability, and assurance in a world that felt uncertain to him. He wasn't just missing sleep, he was missing a sense of security. Over the following weeks, I kept thinking about that night. If a simple gesture of letting him stay near me gave him the peace he needed, what else could I do to help him feel safe in this new chapter of life? So I made changes. I started spending more one-on-one time with Ethan, helping him with homework, sitting with him at soccer practice, and most importantly, listening to his stories even when they seemed small. I discovered he had a deep love for drawing superheroes, so I bought him a sketchbook and encouraged him to fill it. Every time he showed me a new drawing, I made sure to tell him how proud I was. Slowly, I noticed his nightmares became less frequent. He began to smile more, talk more, and even make new friends at school. That late-night visit to my room had opened a door, not just physically, but emotionally. One evening, as we were sitting in the backyard watching the sunset, Ethan turned to me and said, "Karen, you make me feel safe." Those words, simple as they were, touched me deeply. It reminded me that motherhood isn't defined only by biology but by love, patience, and presence. Years later, when Ethan grew older and more independent, I often thought back to that night. It taught me that sometimes the moments that seem small, like a scared child walking into your room, are the ones that shape the bonds of family the most. That night, He came into my room because of fear, but he left with comfort. And I, in return, received something priceless: the trust of a child who chose to see me as family. Family isn't always about how we start, it's about how we grow together. And for me, that growth began in the quiet of one sleepless night in Austin.